Greetings YouTube, Captain Machine here, back for another video, and today I'm going to be talking about something which is very close to my heart because I've suffered from it myself, and it's also been a recent factor which has contributed to the lack of videos on this channel, which is GM burnout. And when I started thinking about GM burnout, I also realised that my own burnout on my own channel was frighteningly similar, so I'm pretty sure I can draw parallels, and that's what I'm going to try and do and call it an excuse. So first of all, apologise about lack of a hat. I'm pretty sure from my friend's house, and although he's not going in touch with me to tell me it's there, I'm pretty sure I know where it is. So hopefully I can retrieve my hat soon and the hat will become a part of the thing. You see the background behind me, obviously the one you're used to. It's going to change. I don't know if I mentioned this before or yet, but I'll be moving house shortly in July, and so obviously my studio, otherwise known as my room, will change, and so that the backdrop will change. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep doing the standing up thing or not. At the moment, no, because the acoustics of this house mean that I can pretty much guarantee I can film quietly in here, but outside the landing, which is where I was actually doing the filming, I can't, because sound travels horrendously in this house. So if someone's watching TV downstairs, you can hear it. So it was really hard to try and schedule a time where I was A, in the mood, and B, had time, no one was doing anything to actually do the filming. That's why I've gone back to doing it like this. Plus that I'm very stream of consciousness guy when it comes to my talking. I did try to do a little bit of scripting, and the honest truth is that was also delaying my videos. I was also going, oh, I don't want to do another review until I finish writing this script. It's like, sitting down actually writing the script was a ball ache, absolute ball ache, because I realised that, like most RPG reviews on here, I don't have a script. The only RPG review I do know is Iron Liz, who isn't actually on YouTube. She's got her own webpage called the Foundry, linked down below. And why she's not part of the Channel Awesome crew like the rest of the people on that Galagas, I don't know, because what reviews she has put out, her quality are fantastic, much better than what I can do. But then again, she does script, and not many other people do that. And I can see why. So, on to the topic at hand, which is GM burnout, and the parallel, of course, is YouTube burnout. Basically, GM burnout is that sensation you get when you just cannot be asked to GM at all. This applies not only to people that write the stuff, but also people that ad-lib the stuff, and ad-libbing GMing is something that I'll talk about in the future because it's a pet peeve of mine. Some people I know can do it, most can't. And basically, I've worked out a diagnosis for it, which is, how do you know, first of all, you are burning out as a GM? Okay, let's say, for example, you know it's going to take you a couple of hours, say 2 or 3 hours a week, to actually write the adventure and write some campaign stuff for the group you are going to be running for. Now, let's assume, for example, that you've got other activities, like, say, playing Xbox, like playing Call of Duty, for example. Now, Call of Duty is not really a productive thing. It's fun. I mean, I play a lot of Call of Duty online. It's a lot of fun, but it doesn't actually achieve anything at all. And if you're in a situation where you know that you have to dedicate a certain amount of time to writing the game before you get around to running it, and you instead choose to do something which is non-productive, like, I don't know, playing Xbox, sunbathing, just sat there listening to the radio, something like that, watching YouTube videos, then generally speaking, I would say you have GM burnout. If you're in a situation where you would much rather do something non-productive than something productive towards your campaign, you have GM burnout. That's how I would diagnose it. There are three reasons I've identified for it. The third, and the one we'll talk about first, gets the most extreme and the easiest to get out of the way, is you've had enough of role-playing in general. And there's nothing I can say about that. I can't see a situation in the future where I will burn out of role-playing in general. I'll go, I don't want to role-play anymore. Because I enjoy it so much. It's such an integral part of my hobby activities. Even to the point where I'll roleplay stuff that has nothing to do with roleplaying. You know, I'll roleplay my war boss on a Warhammer 40,000 table, you know. So there is that element to my life, and it has allowed me to do certain things in the past which I never would have done normally, I think. Like, it allows me to take on different personas, it allows me to think on the fly, it teaches me all these tricks basically, which I'm applying to my work and my social life and such and so forth. So if you have that and you are completely just burnt out with RPGs in general, then why are you still playing? Not to be rude or disrespectful, but if you're in a situation where you just simply don't want to roleplay anymore, then get out. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a hobby. If you're not having fun, do something else. And that's the end of that one particular point. The second point is that you're not happy with the system in general. Now let's say, for example, I don't know, you've been running Vampire the Requiem. One of the source books for it. And you've just got to the point where you can't stand the sight of a dice pool or a bunch of D10s or the angsty role-playing that goes with that. And you just want to have some nice, something simpler or something with a different flavour. And you just can't be asked to sit down and write another macabre plot of elders bickering between each other and mortals trying to stake vampires. Then it could just be you're burnt out with that setting. Maybe you should have a palate cleanser. Take a couple of weeks off, write some stuff for D&D or something else like, I don't know, Call of Cthulhu or Warhammer or any other game you fancy. I'm just going for my own personal collection here. Even some Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds stuff is really easy to write for, and it's really pulpy. It makes you feel great as a player and a GM because of the creative juices that flow. And the game allows you to get away with stuff like that. If it turns out that that doesn't work for you, then we're going to move on to the third and the usual, I would say, the more common version of GM burnout. And the third version is you've burnt out with GMing at all. So let's say, for example, it's not a case of you've just been running, I don't know, Ravenloft. You've been running Ravenloft for the past year or something, and you just simply can't stand the idea of sitting down and writing an adventure for this. And you sit back and you look at your entire shelf of all your games you've got, and you go, I don't want to play any of those. I don't want to run any of those. You think to yourself, well, what games do all of my friends have that I can borrow? Because a healthy role-playing group shouldn't be afraid to borrow their materials to other players so that they can GM stuff that they themselves don't collect. At the moment, I'm currently lending a copy of Savage Worlds Rulebook and Deadlands to one of my players so that he can run Deadlands. So I get to play it, which is great, as opposed to just simply running it. And I'm really enjoying that. Even though he's never invested any single penny into the setting, he is getting the opportunity to run it because I've lent the material to him. And you guys out there shouldn't be afraid to do that at all. But even if you're in a situation where the stuff that's on your shelf, no matter how sparse or how full it is, and the stuff your friends have access to, or the stuff you can borrow from various sources, if none of that appeals to you, you can't find anything which sparks that creative juices going, or you're in a situation where you can, but ultimately you keep stopping after, say, a couple of weeks, you go, actually I'm not quite feeling this, guys, and you do this a couple of times. I actually know GMs that do this as well, where they'll run for like 2 weeks and go, I'm not feeling it, guys, anymore, and they'll do this like several times. If you're in that situation, then you might be burnt out as a GM in total. And the only thing I can recommend with that is if you're not, going back to the first point, sick of role-playing in general, then don't GM anymore. Go back to being a player, go back to sitting on the other side of the GM screen and really enjoy yourself. That's something that's happened to me a few times in the past, and I'll tell you now, if you haven't suffered from writer's block, it's not even writer's block really, it's GM burnout. If you haven't suffered from GM burnout before, it's really, really hard. First of all, A, to realise you've got it, and it takes someone to point out sometimes, and B, to deal with it, especially when no one's actually ever gone through this with you, no one's actually ever sat you down and says, look, you've got GM burnout, just try this instead. It's really hard to deal with, really hard. So that's what this video's about, it's advice basically. Sit on the other side of the GM screen, be a player, watch how other people roleplay. I mean, there are a few rare instances where this wouldn't work. I mean, way back when, we're talking like, say, 5 or 6 years ago, I was running a Ravenloft game on a Tuesday night, I think it was, and it had basically been pretty much de facto by the rest of the group that I was that night's GM. So even when I wasn't, if I turned up one week and I said, look, look, I can't run for a couple of weeks for whatever reason, but I still want to play. We'd end up playing board games or card games or Magic the Gathering because nobody wanted to step into GM. If you're in that rare situation, then play card games, play board games, play video games, play something with your friends, because ultimately this is a social experience as much as a fun time. So just socialise with your friends, play some card games, play some board games. However, the majority of groups I tend to encounter have at least one other aspiring GM within them who will more than happily take up the mantle for you, and you might even be able to get the creative juices flowing by mentoring them. So if they're not particularly confident with it, you can say, okay, if you've got any questions, come to me and we'll have a little chat about it. And never criticise a GM, by the way, a new GM mid-game. Never do that. Nothing's more soul destroying than going, actually, that's not really how you should be doing this. Let the whole thing play out. At the end of the session, when everyone else has gone home, you say, just give some creative, constructive criticism. But that's basically it. So you've got your three main indicators as to GM burnout. The first, as I've said before, is the fact that you're sick of role-playing in general, then just simply stop. You're sick of the second one is you're sick of your setting, in which case change settings, that usually helps. The third one, and if the second one doesn't work, then it is definitely the third one you have, which is you're sick of GMing in general. And if that's the case, be a player. Be a player for as long as it takes to get that creative juices flowing again. I haven't run a game for some time now with my guys, and they're really getting excited about a game that I am writing. And I'm really excited about running it, so I'm looking forward to that. It's kind of why I went a bit Hellfrost mad at UK Games Expo, because Hellfrost is one of the games I'm going to be running. So, thank you for your time, guys. Goodbye.